Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Dia about to react to this video by Blackie Speaks. It's titled Tay Keith died before he got paid. Damn. R.I.P. to Tay Keith, by the way. I saw this and I was like, oh, I literally gasped out loud because he has produced so many bangers. Anytime I heard his tagline, Tay Keith, these niggas up, I'm like, oh, this is about to be a banger, and it always was. So it's really unfortunate that he lost his life and he was so young. So it's sad, but yeah, let's see what was going on behind the scenes.
Now, Tay Keith was one of the biggest producers in modern hip-hop. Even if you didn't know his face, you definitely knew his sound. This is the producer behind records like Look Alive, featuring Drake, Non-Stop by Drake, Travis Scott's Sicko Mode, and a long list of songs that helped shape the sound of modern hip-hop. When you heard the producer tag,
Tay Keith, fuck these niggas up,
you already knew what time it was. But on June 18th, 2026, we got hit with the news that Tay Keith had passed away at only 29 years old. According to Nashville police, Tay Keith was found dead inside his apartment during a welfare check. Police said no foul play was suspected, and as of right now, his cause of death has not been officially determined. But after his passing, another story related to this started circulating. Because just a few months before Tay Keith died, Tay Keith had filed a lawsuit claiming he had not been properly paid for the work he did with rapper Sexy Red. And the reason why this story is so important is because Sexy Red's rise was heavily tied to Tay Keith's sound, his beats, and the records they made together. Pound Town, Ski Yee, Get It Sexy, You My Everything. These were records that helped turn her into one of the most talked about female rappers in the game. So to hear that one of the main people behind this sound that helped her blow up had a pending lawsuit claiming he had not been properly paid or properly accounted to, that's obviously a conversation we need to have. The complaint was filed against Sexy Red's label, Rebel Music, but Sexy Red herself was also named as a defendant under her legal name, Janae Weary. Before we get into the lawsuit and the money side of the story, I think we gotta properly ground this conversation and talk about who Tay Keith really was. Because what made Tay Keith interesting is that he wasn't just talented, he was also very disciplined. While a lot of people in his position would have probably dropped everything once the music started working, Tay Keith still cared about education. He went to Middle Tennessee State University, and even while he was already working with some of the biggest artists in the world, he still finished his degree. And according to people around him, that mattered to him deeply, because he had promised his mother he would graduate.
Lots of people were telling him, hey, you're already working with Drake and Travis Scott. Why are you finishing a degree? But it was so important to him. He had promised his mother that he would earn a college degree. He was the first to graduate from college in his family. In December 2018, the month he graduated, he also had a #1 record with Travis Scott and a Grammy nomination.
That detail says a lot about who Tay Keith was, because by December 2018, the same month he graduated, Tay Keith already had a #1 record with Travis Scott and a Grammy nomination. And that wasn't his only Grammy-level moment either. Years later, he was nominated again for Rich Flex by Drake and 21 Savage. And a lot of people looked at Tay Keith and said, bro, what are you doing? Like, what do you need school for? But he clearly didn't look at success like that. He studied the game, he studied music, he studied business, and he still finished what he started. That's why his legacy hit different. Because he wasn't just a producer who made beats, he was a symbol for a lot of young people, especially black students and creatives from places like Memphis where he was from, who looked at him and said, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about Tay Keith. He wasn't the loudest person in the room. He wasn't moving like some super flashy character every time you saw him, but his beats were loud. His impact was loud. His presence in hip-hop was very loud. And whether it was Drake, Travis Scott, Beyonce, Sexy Red, or whoever else, Tay Keith had his fingerprints on real moments of music. So when the news came out that he had passed away at only 29 years old, it wasn't just sad because a producer died. It was sad because this was a very bright young soul, intelligent, hard-working, focused, and truly a blessing to music in general. As far as what actually happened, let's talk about it. On the afternoon of June 18th, 2026, Metro Nashville Police responded to Tay's Nashville apartment for a welfare check. When officers arrived, they found Brigtavious Chambers, better known as Tay Keith, dead inside the apartment. Police said no foul play was suspected. His death was listed as unclassified, pending autopsy results, which basically means the official cause of death had not been determined yet. Now, of course, when people hear the words welfare check, they naturally start wondering what that means. A welfare check usually means police are asked to check on somebody's well-being, often because someone hasn't heard from them or there's concern that something may be wrong. But in Tay's case, police have not publicly revealed why they were called to perform that welfare check. And out of respect for his family and his legacy, I'm not going to sit here and speculate. People online are going to do what they do, but I'm not going to use my voice to turn his death into rumors when the official cause has not been determined. What we can say is this. Tay Keith was only 29 years old, and the hip-hop world lost somebody who had already accomplished more than most producers ever will. But after Tay's passing, another part of the story started circulating, because just a few months before his death, Tay Keith had filed a lawsuit over the same music he helped create with Sexy Red. And keep in mind, this wasn't a random producer suing over a random beat. This was one of the main people behind the sound that helped Sexy Red become famous and blow up, claiming he still had not been properly paid or properly accounted to. Pound Town, Ski, Get It Sexy, You My Everything. These were not small records. These were songs that helped turn Sexy Red into one of the most talked about female rappers in the game. So before we even get to the legal side, that's the part people are reacting to. So this was an unresolved business fight before Tay Keith passed away. That's why the story is not just about Tay Keith's death. It's about what happens when the person behind the sound of the hit record still has to fight to receive what they believe they're owed. So let's get into what the lawsuit actually is about. Tay Keith filed the lawsuit on March 9th, 2026 in Miami-Dade County, Florida. And the lawsuit was aimed at two defendants. The first one was Rebel Music, LLC, which is Sexy Red's label. But the second defendant was Janae Wary, also known as Sexy Red professionally. So legally speaking, yes, Sexy Red herself was named in this lawsuit. Now I do want to be fair here. When we're talking about royalties, accounting, producer payments, splits, and business paperwork, a lot of that stuff usually goes through the label because the label handles the business side. So I'm not sitting here saying Sexy Red personally woke up one day and said, I'm not paying Tay Keith. That's not the case here, right? That's not what I'm saying. Actually, from what it appears, Tay Keith and Sexy Red were not enemies at all. They had worked together closely. They were still in contact. And from the outside looking in, there seemed to be real love there. So this is not a personal situation where these two had beef and they hated each other. In fact, that's part of what makes the situation even more complicated. Because sometimes business issues happen between people who still have love for each other. Sometimes the relationship can be cool, but that paperwork, the money or the accounting can still be a problem. But at the same time, we have to be accurate. This lawsuit did not only mention the label. It named Rebel Music, Sexy Red's label, and it named Sexy Red personally under her legal name. So while the heart of the lawsuit seems to be about producer payments, royalties, and accounting, Sexy Red was still legally part of the case. And that detail matters because Tay Keith was not some random producer in Sexy Red's story. Like we stated, this was one of the main people behind the sound that helped introduce her to the world. So just a little more on that for people who don't know. A lot of Sexy Red's rise is connected to Tay Keith's production. When people started paying attention to her, his beats were a major part of what made those records hit the way they did. He produced Pound Town, which became her breakout record, and eventually got
because she ain't talking about shit. She ain't rapping about nothing. It was because this beat goes so hard, wild like this beat, and yeah, she is saying some wild shit on it. So she did contribute to it a bit, obviously, but the beats played a massive role.
Nicki Minaj. He was also behind Ski, Get It Sexy, You My Everything featuring Drake, and multiple other songs connected to that run. So he didn't just give her one beat and disappeared. Tay Keith helped create some of the biggest records attached to Sexy Red's rise. And that's why this lawsuit hits different, because when you look at Sexy Red's career, Tay's sound is all over it. That hard-hitting Memphis energy, that bounce, that simple but infectious production, that was a huge part of what made those records work. So to hear that months before his death, Tay had a pending lawsuit claiming he had not been properly paid or properly accounted to for those records, that obviously raises questions. And honestly, I'm kind of shocked, but at the same time, producers and songwriters getting the short end of the stick, and music is nothing new. That's like a thing that happens all the time. According to the complaint, Tay's side claimed he produced or helped create 13 songs performed by Sexy Red that were commercially released and exploited by Rebel Music and Sexy Red. And when they say exploited, that doesn't mean in an emotional way. It simply just means that the songs were used commercially to generate money. The complaint says the songs were distributed across streaming platforms, digital downloads, social media, live performances, radio play, licensing, and other revenue-generating channels. So these songs were being streamed, performed, monetized, and used as part of a real commercial run. According to the complaint, Tay's side claimed that despite delivering the work, Rebel Music and Sexy Red, who are both named as defendants, failed and refused to pay him for his services. They also claimed the defendants failed to give him a proper accounting of the revenue generated from the songs. And that accounting is also very important because if you don't know what the songs made, you can't really know what you're owed. Yeah. So Tay Keith's side wasn't just saying, pay me. They were basically saying, show me the numbers so we can figure out what I'm supposed to receive. And that's really the center of this lawsuit here. It wasn't just, I made a beat and I want some money. It was, these songs made you guys a lot of money. You exploited them commercially, and I need to know what came in and what I'm owed. Now, the complaint listed 13 songs, and that's why this case caught people's attention. Because these weren't random album cuts nobody heard. They included a lot of very popular records. And the accounting part of this lawsuit is very important. Because if nobody shows you the numbers, you don't really know what you're arguing over. You don't know if you're owed $10,000, $50,000, or way more than that. Now, when I looked through the court paperwork, there was one form where the lawsuit was placed in the $50,000 to $75,000 range. But that does not mean Tay Keith was only saying, pay me $50,000 and we good. It looks like that number is more like the court's basic claim category. The actual complaint is broader than that. In the complaint, Tay Keith's side claimed these songs generated millions of dollars in revenue. And they're asking the court to make Rebel Music and Sexy Red open up the numbers and figure out what they may have been owed. So the easy way to understand this is this. The court paperwork gave one estimated range for the case, but Tay Keith's side was asking how much money did these records make and what part of that belongs to me. So the real issue here was payment, royalties, profits, and accounting. And this is the part a lot of people don't understand about producers. A producer can create the whole feeling of a record. The bounce, the drums, the pocket, the energy. Sometimes that is the reason the song even works. I'm sure a lot of people agree. But once the song blows up, the producer might still be behind the scenes trying to figure out what the song actually made. And that's why the accounting part matters. And this is what makes the situation so crazy, because Tay Keith, like we all know, was not some random unknown producer begging for a look. I mean, this was a Grammy-nominated multi-platinum producer whose sound helped create real moments in hip-hop, very, very, very major moments. So if somebody like that still feels like he had to go to court to get paid and accounted to properly, that tells you how messy the business side of music can get. And one of the things a lot of people online are saying is that, this is just against the label. This had nothing to do with Sexy Red. And from a music business perspective, I understand why people say that. A lot of the money side is actually handled by labels. If you guys did not know, lawyers, managers, and business teams and all that stuff is usually very disconnected from the artists themselves, unless the artist is independent or unless they're just very much business-minded, where they want to make sure that they keep track of everything. If someone is signed to a label and they're, let's say, pretty popular, a lot of times they're not really keeping up with a lot of the business stuff. Their job is go to this show, get this bag here, do this brand deal here, fly to this country here, do a concert, hop in a studio over there, make a song, and that's really their job. But for the lawsuit here, Sexy Red's label, Rebel Music, was of course mentioned, and of course Sexy Red herself was mentioned, right? And those are just the facts of the lawsuit. And the really sad part about this to me is that Tay Keith passed away at only 29 years old, while this business issue was still unresolved. We don't know what the final outcome of the lawsuit would have been, or will be. We don't know what the court would have decided, or will decide, or what amount of money he's going to be awarded. But what we do know is this: Tay Keith believed he was owed payment, accounting, and a clear breakdown of the money generated from these records. And he, of course, filed this lawsuit for a reason. Now, after Tay Keith passed away, Sexy Red did pay her respects publicly. She posted, "Blood in, blood out. We brothers but not related. I love you, brother. Still the best duo." And I think this, of course, matters because this is not a situation where there was no love between these two. From the outside looking in, it looked like Tay Keith and Sexy Red had real chemistry and real respect for each other. But love and business are two completely different things. You can create with somebody.
And I know that people were on her head, like, oh, he had a lawsuit against you, you being fake. But, I mean, business and personal is very different. So, it doesn't mean that they didn't have, like, a good relationship still, despite this.
Good
people don't understand that. People are slow.
Energy with somebody and still need clarity when money, ownership, and accounting get involved. Now, according to reports, Rebel Music's attorney also made a statement saying they have been working with Tay Keith's legal team to finalize the royalty agreement and fully compensate him for his contributions as a musical collaborator with Sexy Red. According to them, they were already in the final stages of getting him fully compensated before his passing. So that payment could be made to his estate as soon as possible. So that's their side of it. Their position is basically, this is being worked out. But the reason the lawsuit still matters is simple. Tay Keith had already taken it to court. And when somebody takes something to court, that usually means private conversations were not enough. So even if both sides were eventually working toward a resolution, the fact remains that Tay Keith died while this business issue was still unresolved. And that's the part that kind of sits with me, because this is not about acting like Tay Keith never won. Tay Keith co-produced Sicko Mode, worked with Drake, Travis Scott, Beyonce, and became one of the most recognizable producers in modern hip-hop. But even with all that success, he still had a pending lawsuit over music he helped create, and it's a lot of music. And Tay Keith was fighting to get his fair share behind the scenes. Again, I'm not saying the court already decided who was right or wrong. I don't really know what they're going to decide or have decided and whatnot, right? But the fact that Tay Keith had to file a lawsuit over records this important to Sexy Red's career is unfortunate by itself.
I feel like what he's not saying, which some people are thinking and not wanting to say, is that this is suspicious. Like, not saying that they had anything to do with his passing, but the timing is just very convenient and it's suspicious. It just is. Hopefully there was no foul play, but they're not even saying what happened. So I would be interested to know, what his cause of death was. So I will keep my eye out on the situation to see, what happened, because he was only 29, so he just dropped dead in his apartment. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And obviously people could die for many reasons, so I guess we will find out when they release the information. But it's just like, this makes you side-eye, because the industry is just such a dark place and a lot of fucked up things happen. So I understand if some people are just like kind of side-eyeing the situation, but RIP to him nonetheless. I do hope that they do resolve this and his family and his estate gets paid what they owe, because y'all need to pay this man his money. He was the reason Sexy Red took off. Like, let's stop playing. But really sad situation. Y'all let me know what y'all think though, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Bye.